Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of HazChat from HazMat 101 Consultants. I'm Bob Koshik, one of your co-hosts, with my other cohort co-host, Derek Shaman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Cohort, co-host,
Co something. I just,
co-conspirator,
I had to.
co-signer. If you need
Uh,
loans, I co-sign. I do that.
if you need bail, he could do that too. Uh,
You can only be bail for so many people at one time. So I'm at
that's
I'm at
true.
capacity right now.
That's true. Yeah, because he's got me. Yeah, I figured I'd change it up, say something different, stupid, whatever. All right. So this is gonna drop on actually March 31st this time. We're gonna drop it a day before April's Fool, just so people don't think it's an April Fool joke. By the time you have heard this or watched it or whatever, we will have just gotten back from Massachusetts, which we leave tomorrow, Tuesday. It's colder weather. Oof.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm enough
Not
of this cold
hospitable.
weather stuff, dude. They're good people. It's a good venue, great venue, Gillette Stadium. It's a good group. I encourage anybody that's in the New England area to make plans for next year. It's good stuff. Lots of good instructors, good venue, like I said, and it's fun, good times. So, what's going on with you? Anything?
Nah, not too much. Just once I'm done here, go get some packing done so that we can make our way to beautiful Massachusetts and enjoy some
Early in the morning.
some weather. It's starting to finally warm up here, so why not go somewhere cold again?
Dude, I played right. I played golf the other day. It was like 74, 75. Oh, good God. All right. Well, enough of us babbling. We're going to get right to it after a message from our sponsors. Hey, HazChat listeners, looking to boost your skills? Check out respondertraining.com. They've got top-notch responder training and essential tools like their 1-inch propane and CNG flare-off kits, water injection tools, and much more. Train smart, stay safe, and excel in the field. That's respondertraining.com. Enhance your hazmat training with Signal, the most realistic gas detection training on the market. For under $100, you can simulate any detection combination from handheld meters to fixed location monitors, and even confined space scenarios with their universal pump attachment. Signal delivers unlimited range and detector combinations trusted by top teams around the world. Visit signalapp.com or download the app now. Signal, unlimited range, unlimited possibilities. And we're back.
Here we are.
As we always say, movie magic. So we're going to talk a little bit about bioresponse. In 2001, we were running, God, what, 30, 40 powder calls a day easily.
It was right around too many.
It was right around too many, right? It was so many, in fact, that we actually, our brothers at Orange County squads were running some hazmat calls with us downtown, and we actually ended up having to staff our hazmat truck, which at the time I think we just had one driver. No, actually there was nobody on it. Somebody had to jump off of 101 and drive hazmat. So we had put two people on hazmat 1, which at the time was an old beer truck style, with no beer, unfortunately, with a
Mm-hmm.
small office in the back. And then we even put another unit, a third unit, if I remember correctly. So we had 3 units. We had Engine 101, Hazmat 1, and another, like, if we had to, quick response vehicle. It was just crazy. It was 30, 40 powder calls a day. We had no SOPs, really. I should say we didn't have any SOPs. We had limited because, fortunately, the people that we had in our hazmat command staff, if you will, I was at the time driving Toby Bevilacqua. Derek had Rick Stelp. We had, so we had some people that were in the know of what we should be doing and so on. So we had a pretty good plan. There was a lot of things that we tweaked, obviously, from then. I remember doing a HazCat kit on the tailboard of Engine 101 for one of the powders, and people standing on the side trying to block the wind. I mean, it was craziness. One quick funny story, because I think it's a little amusing, is we had a truck company. Um, cut the door off of a car because of yellow powder on the door. And they said they needed to do that to preserve the evidence. And we're like, okay, cool, but it's pollen. So it was, oops, I
What?
don't,
Pollen in Florida?
I
No, no
know,
way.
I know. That
No
was
way.
it, it was a hard one to have to justify, but we were able to. God, how far we've come. So
Well, and you made a point about the fact that we didn't have SOPs or SOGs.
right,
And that's something that comes up a lot in HazMat discussions. And HazMat group two on Facebook, people are always asking about HazMat SOPs and SOGs. And one of the things that I feel most of the experienced, tenured personnel on HazMat teams, the first thing that we all tend to say is your hazmat SOPs and SOGs are not going to tell you how to operate a call.
exactly,
Kind of like we kind of want to mix them in with EMS protocols or fire SOPs, SOGs. In reality, what worked for the department when those calls were coming out was the training that people received and having the knowledge. SOPs and SOGs guide you and give the the rules and the boundaries that you play within. But other than that, everything was just procedural stuff that was developed because of the fact we had to be able to quickly adapt and change
yeah,
as the information and our testing abilities changed. Where SOPs and SOGs, most departments, that's a committee based thing and it's a
right,
review process that happens every so many years. So finding a way to adapt and have some on-scene actions and plans versus something very strict that kind of locks you into this is how we're going to do things every time.
right,
um,
right.
it's just something to consider.
And we've got friends that are out there, and they're like, really, there are no hazmat SOPs. And what they mean by a lot of it is like you can't say, like in a fire, the right side of the truck is going to do force entry insert. You can't do that. You can have some guidelines and stuff, but it depends what you're dealing with. And to that point is, and this is some of the things we talk about in our hazmat ops review class, is that first due engine truck company, what's their plan? And this, we didn't realize it until we had so many of these calls, that we had to have something for them to do. This was in writing because we had people on the first engine or truck walking right into the house, business, whatever, with no PPE on, no nothing. And we came up with a quick little sheet that if it's a commercial building, you did XYZ. If it's a residence, you do, ABC, whatever. And if anybody wants that, shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to send it to you and tweak it however you want. But that was really as far as SOPs, that was the only thing we really did. And then one of the things we did over a period of time, and from going to other classes and things like that, was we put together a kit. And there were so many commercial kits, obviously there's some kind of tragedy or some kind of event happening, so all the business people start trying to make money off of us or things or whatever. But we made our own kit. We took what the FBI was giving us, as we talked in a previous interview episode that we did with Kevin Johnson, from retired from Hazmat FBI. We put together some of that 12-step process to a point, and we formulated a matrix for sampling, and we'll show you guys that in a second. And then we also did a clean person, dirty person. And a lot of this was based off of the classes that we went out at um, uh, Anniston. We went out at Dugway Proving Grounds, which I don't think they're doing that one anymore, but that was the bio class, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. I mean, that's where one of the places our government tested bioweapons back in the day. So that I learned a tremendous amount there. So anyway, we took some of these from where we went to some of these classes, and we put together this sampling matrix and procedures for a clean person, dirty person, and setting up as clean of a sampling field as you can, and then providing some of those tests. So the whole
Mm-hmm.
purpose of this show is to show you guys a little bit of that.
Yeah, and the LSU sampling course was the one I
Oh, I
think
forgot
that
about that one. Yeah, that
a
too.
lot of opened our eyes a lot as to procedurally how to
Yeah.
approach these things,
Yep.
because it kind of put all the concepts that we had learned together in a logical way.
Right. Yeah, I forgot all about that one. Yep. So, that one, the Dugway, the Aniston, the Rad class in Nevada, all these are free classes, gang. Go out there and as our company motto is, when you're through learning, you're through. So, without further ado, let's get to some of this matrix stuff first. One of the first things you want to look at is, when we talk about air monitoring in our air monitoring class, we talk about solids, liquids, and gases. And here's a matrix that we've used over the years. And you know, eh, don't forget the basics. We're going
Mm-hmm.
with pH. We're going with our rad. We're going into our wet chemistry. And then if we need to, we're hitting some of the advanced technologies.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean that's the approach that we should be taking, and I'm sure every team is doing it. But the idea behind it was we created flowcharts for a lot of these things just so that it was repeatable, and we knew that we had consistency across all the shifts, across all the teams, whether it was the core team, the satellite teams. Everyone was doing everything the same way, so it was repeatable. And if we had a result that didn't come out a certain way and we did it again, we knew that we were testing it the same way.
right. And just a quick note, if any of you are listening to this on any of the platforms, please go to our YouTube channel, HazMat 101 Consultants, and watch it so you can see exactly what it is we're talking about. So you don't feel like you're left out. So
A
after
picture's
that,
worth 1,000 words.
it is indeed. And then we had this, we created a sampling matrix. And again, you make up what you want, make up what fits your department. Again, send me an email. Be happy to send this to you. I think I have it in Word format still, maybe, and tweak it however you want. But the idea behind this was, and again, I know some of these things have been proven that, like the protein kits, you can trick protein kits. We get it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a starting point, is all this is. And then, as you can see here, we would do two 2020 protein kits. And then, if we got nothing, we would confirm it with, at the time, this is a little outdated matrix here, we would confirm it with the Has ID. Obviously, there's other things out there that, and we don't push any product in particular, but there's obviously other technologies that you could use to confirm what it is you're dealing with. If we had a positive, we would drop down and start doing our handheld assays, our rate eights, and things like that. And then we go down from there. Positive, we're using the ramp. We still get things positive. We keep going down, and now we get to a certain point where, okay, we've got positive, three different positives, different technologies. Now we're going to stop, because now
Mm-hmm.
we're at a point where we need to, as Toby always says, we need to push the red button, and that's when the black SUVs are going to show up. And this actually happened, and we used this matrix on a call that was a house fire, and when the fire was out, it was discovered our guy was making ricin, and so we kind of went through this matrix. Instead of one powder, we had 25 different powders to test, so it took a little bit, but it worked out very well for us, having a plan. Gang, just
Mm-hmm.
have a plan.
Mm-hmm. And real quick on that one, in addition to ricin, what else was he experimenting with there, Bob?
Let's see. He had some rudimentary IEDs. He had God, what else? He was experimenting. He was doing this type of religion thing and set his mattress on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a chemical formula written up on a dry erase board that some thought at the beginning it was the chemical formula for C4.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out later it wasn't. But when we found all these things in powders, we moved clothing away, and he had a big old pickle jar full of mashed up castor beans. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. His statement was, "I'm killing rats." And we said two-legged or four-legged. And this is kind of eerie. He goes, doesn't matter. So that was
Hmm.
kind of like, oh, here, you need to go talk to these guys now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the important thing with these types of calls, is we talk about bio screening, we talk about all these things, but when the call that you had there was a good eye opener to people who are interested in doing these things on their own are probably interested in more than just one concept.
Right.
They may just be a hobbyist who just wants to challenge themselves and see, hey, can I do this? So they might try to make ricin, but try to make something else. They might try
Yep.
making rudimentary explosives, or you get the person who's really interested in fireworks and they're making fireworks. Well,
Yeah.
fireworks are explosives. Like,
Yeah.
typically people who kind of gravitate towards this chemistry and just this idea of what can I make are probably trying things across multiple disciplines.
Sure.
So that's where it's important to also consider, do we have an EOD response need for this call?
Good point. And we're fortunate that uh, the bomb squad, the EOD, is part of our fire department. I think it's only one of 7 or 8 fire departments in the country that the EOD team is part of the fire department. So that worked out great because we work very well hand in hand with them. So we had the matrix here of how you're going to do, what kind of sampling you're going to do. And then we also, and these were 2 laminated cards that we had back to back. And this kind of identifies a clean person, dirty person, your procedure for evidence collection. Um, Again, we had at the time a kit that we purchased. I don't know the name of it, and wouldn't repeat it anyway because again, we try not to push anything. But it had 3 certified clean jars. It even had evidence paperwork in it, if I remember correctly. It had your
Mm-hmm.
copants. It had a lot of the proper stuff you need if you're going to be collecting evidence. And this is an evidence collection uh segment by any means. Maybe we'll do that another one, but just always remember, and I try to tell everybody this when I have the chance, when you go to collect your evidence, don't go right in the middle of the powder or the whatever. Try to get it from the edge because you don't want to contaminate the whole sample. So, and again, that's a class for another day.
Yeah, and this was where I kind of forked off, and I was the opposition to some of the things that we started doing in sampling, because I was like, we are not forensic investigators. We're not an
Right.
evidence team. We're it's not our specialty, and I don't want us to get into the habit of trying to blur the line between our role, which was identify so that we can make sure that we've done proper isolation, protective measures, and patient care, not getting so bogged down in the evidence preservation collection side. However, we do still have to consider
Mm-hmm.
the evidence preservation at the bare minimum. But as we were talking with Kevin Johnson, when the FBI field office sends someone out, they're not sending out a full on sampling team. They're going to be there initially more to give guidance and say, this is what we need you to do. So you still have to be familiar with proper documentation, evidence collection,
Yep.
chain of custody. Like, we need to know where your sample was from the time that you collected it all the
Yeah.
way to the time it made it to a lab, and every hand that touched it has to be accounted for. So I struggled with that. I accepted it. Um, but at the same time, you have to be prepared and familiar with it, because in the event that it does become a criminal issue, you're going to probably find yourself assisting those agencies with that information. So you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and training not only in how to do the tests themselves, but how to do it in a way that preserves and establishes a chain of custody. Um, and one of the things on here is probably someone maybe in the middle of typing a comment, and I'll stop you before you hit enter. Uh, Clean person, dirty person. That was a terminology that we used when we started this out. The idea being that the dirty person was the sample collector most exposed. The clean person was just there to verify the testing. I know that they've moved away from that, because the idea was that with using the term dirty person, it was assumed that that person didn't need to use best practices. That is
Right.
not the case.
Right.
Obviously, in HazMat, we want everyone to be the clean person. So it's more of the sample collector and the test observer and preparation. So before someone hits enter and says, don't call it clean guy, dirty guy, or clean person, dirty person anymore, we know this is the concept is still there. There's a
Right.
sample collector and the person who's actually running the test.
Exactly. And again, this procedure here is a little dated, but the principles are still the same. So anyway, so let's go to from that, we're going to jump into the bio bag. Now, let me explain a couple things here. You're looking at a picture of essentially a tool bag that's got items in it, and this is a downrange bag that can be used for all kinds of things. When we put together our biosampling kit, if you will, it was a 5 gallon bucket. It had all the tests in it that we needed, and it was small little. It's what we had at the time, and we had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of crap in that 5 gallon bucket. Um, so what's happened over time? We've even put a small Pelican case together that has specific tools for sampling. And this is just another kit that the gang uses for going down range for whatever. Because you can see you've got multiple. Matter of fact, let me break this down a little bit more. We'll go into more detail. So now with the picture of all the stuff out of the carrying tote, you can see that we've got our can that carries some of our basic tapes and papers and whatever, all our PID, our multi-rays, our temp gun, rad meter, and then we've got our bio detection, a rate 8, couple 2020s, and I'm sure there's a few other things I can't see in the picture, but there's pH paper, and then they did their bear claw in the back for your basic wet chemistry. So make what's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of call are you running on? It's great to have ideas from other people and take pieces part. It's like when we were coming up being promoted, and I'm sure Derek will say the same thing. I took the different goods of some lieutenants that I had and said, okay, I want a little bit like this, a little bit like that, and so on. Do the same thing with kits that you see. If you go to the HazMat group 2 that we're on, there's files there that people have uploaded. Um, don't reinvent the wheel, gang. Take what works for you because not every department's the same.
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of having a binder that has your different call categories. So your
Yeah,
response to like a bio threat or a fuel spill or whatever. And in that, someone could just have just a single page quick reference that lists these are the equipment and tools that you need for this call. So that
right,
when it comes time for gathering everything to prepare, it's not, oh, we forgot this.
right.
It's here's the things
Oops.
that we typically use on this call. Let's have it. You may deviate from that. You may add something. You may subtract something, but at least you have something there real quick to remind you these things need to be prepped for our recon team to go down and start establishing what we've got.
And you just said two key points. You said recon and establishing what you got. It doesn't mean you need to take the whole truck down range with you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
size up. What do we do? It's like the Chiefs used to tell us. Hey kid, this is what I want to hear from over the radio from you. What do you got? What are you doing? What do you need? That's essentially what you're doing, and then your plan starts evolving from there.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things you mentioned that we had a commercially produced biological sampling kit that had all the different sealed things and
Yeah,
that. But this thing would have been checked baggage on an
right.
airplane. It was a
Yeah, no kidding.
rolling Pelican case that probably weighed about 35, 40 pounds and was the equipment inside of it was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
But the concept of ever taking that down range was a horrible idea. And that's where we took that and said, hey, this is our supply bin, and we're going to
Yep.
build stuff for our team to take down range
When
so
we
that
get
we're
there.
not, yeah, we don't want to create a hindrance and over encumber our personnel because
Right.
realistically, we need to get in, get a sample, then move back into the warm area or warm zone and start making our determinations.
Yep, yep. And there's somebody I remember on in a training event, and I think actually on a meth lab call that was in level C at a table, and this guy right here doing some testing, doing some testing of the stuff that was brought out. So, and that's what you need to do. Don't forget to set up your sampling table. And again, this is not a sampling class. Well, maybe that'll be the next episode, Derek. Um,
We'll
so,
have to everyone have their own little sampling kit, and we'll just go along
ooh,
with them. And
yeah.
whatever happens in your house, it happens in your house.
So, talking about sampling, let's go to some of what we did there. And again, this is just some basic stuff. Um, this is one of the first pictures. We're using different things, but we're taking pictures of the results. I caution people about taking pictures. One of the things that was taught to me was before you go in the entry, and again, I'm not making this a sampling class, but you're taking a picture of inside and of the scene and maybe a letter or the powder. Be careful about taking pictures of sampling procedures. Those are things that could come back and bite you down the road. And again, here's another one of our team. This is a training drill that the guys were on, and they're just taking a picture of the results.
Hmm.
And what do we notice? What do we notice? There isn't tape all over themselves. When they're not taped around the face piece, they're not taped around the wrist. And again, this is a sampling class, but you're supposed to change your gloves every time you do perform a test or collection or whatever. So there's things that we need to do and things we need to take pictures of.
Hmm. And that's a good point. Like you're not necessarily we're not there videoing the entire process. We're just documenting what was used, and it just puts justification into the report that's written later of yes, FTIR technology was used. Yes, immunoassays were used. Yes, this was done. And it's just
Right.
documentation of those things. And like Bob said, you can capture the result so that you have confirmation, especially on those low tech things like immunoassays where there is no real readout from them, that you can preserve that photographic evidence is you preserving those results.
And I want to stress too, when you go to a lot of people are going to do like you see here, and this is not what these guys are doing. But a lot of people are going to go to the easy button, and we talk about this all the time. We're going to go to technology. I'm going to put this, ABC thing, and it's going to shoot a laser at it. And it's gang. You still got to follow a procedure. I'm not saying don't do that, but start at one spot, get to there. I've seen teams that have gone straight to it, and it's been something came out because the test was done wrong. There was a calibration problem with the laser. There's all kinds of things that can happen, and if you don't do the basics and everything's saying yes, 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 then you're gonna get a false sense of security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have a logical path for how you're going to do your initial collection all the way to the determinations within your capabilities and limitations. And if you follow a logical algorithm every single time, like we said, not only will it become muscle memory, but if you get a result that is unexpected, you have the ability to repeat it. And if you repeat it and that result isn't there, but you're so used to following those same steps, now you know that there was either something wrong in your process or something else you're missing. Where
Right.
if you just kind of hodgepodge and randomly jump from one test to the other, you don't really know how and where your discrepancy occurred.
Exactly. Yeah, because you could have a problem way down in the chain of events and not, oh, what step was that? I don't remember. And like Derek
Mhm.
said, follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then get to 5.
Yeah,
So good talk. Good stuff.
that's what I'm
Anything
here for.
else? That's You're the best. Um, Before we leave, anything else? Anything else on this? I don't think
No,
we practice it
I
enough. I really don't think we practice until bio calls start happening again. Everybody's like, whatever.
yeah. Well, and it's a complacency thing with everything that we do, whether it's hazmat, fire, even EMS calls, even just the way that we function in our daily personal lives. We have short-term memory. And
Right.
once something starts to become outside of our regular routine of repetition, we start to lack in it. And that's where Gordon Graham does a fantastic seminar where he talks about risk analysis and risk management. And he talks about, you need to focus your attention on your low frequency, high risk incidents.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if you're not running a lot of biosampling calls, you probably need to increase the amount of biosampling that you're doing in your training. If you're running a lot of hydrocarbon fuel spills, you still need to train on it. You still want to perfect
Right.
and hone that craft. But if you're comfortable with pump off operations, transfers, and things like that, shift your training toward the things that you're not comfortable
Yep.
for.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with the ops people. We can pull hose all day long and throw ladders and do MS train. That's great because that's a lot of our calls. But we should already be pretty good at that. We need to be trained on the special ops stuff, especially the hazmat that you don't run all the time, and that's where stuff gets screwed up. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I digress. So before we head out, here's some social media sites for you. Obviously, as we mentioned, our HazChat YouTube, our HazMat 101 Consultants YouTube page. Please follow us on Facebook. And don't forget on the YouTube channel or any place else, make sure you subscribe and like. Some websites, as I mentioned, HazMat 101 Consultants Facebook, YouTube, and webpage. HazMat Guys Roundtable, first Tuesday of every night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Bobby Salvesen, Mike Monaco, and Jeff Seintek do a live show. Chime in, ask us questions, what have you. Hazmat Group 2, Hazmatter Group, and Common Sense Hazmat. All great places to get information and ask the question that you don't think should be asked or need to be asked, because you'd be surprised how many people have the same question. And we say it every show, but there's a lot of people that are just waiting to help you, and they've uploaded files and things for you to look at. They share incidents and things. So that's all I got. I say the same thing. Use the tools to your advantage, people. Anything
I
else,
agree.
Steve?
Nope, that is it for me. Other than for those of you that are watching this at the time that it drops, obviously those of you in the future, talking to
Ooh.
future use guys. But those of you that are watching this when it drops, don't forget, get Mother's Day gifts because you got about a month from the time this drops to make sure that you've got the stuff that
Oh.
you need.
Oh. I'm glad you said that.
So
I'm
that is
glad
my
you said
friendly
it.
reminder to you.
That's I'm glad you said that. And as we said earlier, by the time this drops, we will have already been in Massachusetts. We will be in Michigan, the Michigan Hazmat Conference, in a few weeks, and then come check us out. Baltimore, we'll be back again this year. Looking forward to seeing all of our friends and making new ones. And until next time, stay safe. We'll see you.